Hello.
Hello.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Fran. I come from the Canary Islands. I'm Spanish.
Do you actually come from the Canary Islands?
I come from the Canary Islands. That's where I grew up.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and well, I don't know. You want me to explain my career path, or
The most important thing is to understand what you're doing at the moment.
at the moment I'm working for a bank. I'm working in compliance, and
What does it mean to work in compliance?
well, it means that we have to make sure that the bank is compliant with the laws and regulations.
That the bank is compliant.
Yes, otherwise we will be fined by the government or sanctions.
But that sounds kind of boring. But but where does it come into the fact that then the bank wants to then make sure that people are doing good and are not doing criminal activity?
Well, in the end, they're going to find out. They will see probably a transaction, or
Who's going to find out?
the government, probably the police. They will see if, let's say, you find someone that is laundering money,
Mm-hmm.
then you will have to see where he's laundering money, what banks he's using to do this.
Okay.
And if
okay.
you discover that one of the banks that's doing this is yours, then you will be fined.
Okay, I understand. So basically, the bank then has like an interest in making sure that everything is nice and clean
Yes,
in case they get investigated by the government.
exactly.
And so because they want everything to be nice and clean, the bank then has to then go and do their investigations.
Uh-huh. So they hire people in order to avoid these sanctions and get to know the clients better,
Okay.
get to know what the clients are doing.
And so what are the kind of dodgy things that some of your clients have, if you can say it?
Dodgy, well, most of the clients are clean,
Okay.
but sometimes you do see some dodgy clients, and they're probably corruption. Yeah, so you might have someone who was in politics and then somehow they receive bribes. You could see that and you need to report it.
How would you see that? I mean, obviously without just explaining what you...
Well, they could use a shell company and probably have a different structure with different companies that they are using, and then at the end of the top company there will be probably a politician or the son of a politician.
But a shell company would mean like a fake company that they've
Yes.
created.
A company that owns another company, probably that company owns some more, and then you need to understand what is behind it.
So if I want to imagine I have this whole truck of cash, and I've acquired this truck of cash somehow illegally, and I want to do some money laundering, then I would be creating a fake company, and there would be, like you said, some like fake companies within fake companies, and
Yes.
and then you would be investigating that, and somehow at some point down the line there would be my name or my dad's name or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you is it really a case of just chasing the breadcrumbs, or is it do you have to work with like detectives or anything like that, or is it not really? What?
For us, we have to do what the law asks us to do, which is knowing our customers and know what they are doing
Okay.
with their money, why they're bringing money to us and where that money comes from.
Okay.
Once we do that, we at least we're doing our job. And if a regulator comes up and says you did this, or a client did this with you, then at least we can justify that we did our job. We knew our customer.
Okay.
If they were good enough to do this thing, I mean, then it would be the police who will have to investigate.
And do you get customers that approach you and very honestly say, like, I would like to create some kind of structure or something, like that they're honest about being basically crooks?
No, not being crooks. No, not with us. They
Okay.
can probably find some other company, smaller companies.
Smaller company.
Yes.
Because Janky, which is another friend of ours from football, he was telling me that is this something to do with the secrecy laws that there used to be
Yes.
in Switzerland? So probably back in the day, you didn't have the governments didn't really care about where the money came from. Is that
Well,
it?
they did. They've always cared, but you left it to the bank. The responsibility.
Okay. Instead, now it's in the government's hands. The responsibility.
Well, it's in everyone's hands.
Okay.
So yeah, the banks have to report it. Now, after the laws have changed, and we have to report it as well to other countries.
Okay. And so, like, specifically, what do you have to actually investigate things that don't seem to be transparent or legitimate, or do you hand that over to other people that do that for you?
I have to investigate it myself. I have to understand what the clients are doing. I get to see all the transactions, where they send the funds, where the funds come from. And if something doesn't make sense, I will ask the banker, the relationship manager, to explain what is his client doing.
And what would be the type what would be the type of transaction that would make you kind of like flag alarm bells?
Well, there are several things. Say for example, the country, like why they are sending funds to an offshore account, or probably if we have a KYC that explains what the clients does, and if for example they do something that's away from what they've said that they do, then you need to ask.
Okay. And I'm so interested in this thing about, like, for example, receiving presents or something that like in a bank account, then presumably the banker or the bank knows like how much money somebody like me or anybody else is making.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's a kind of range where within, like, if I go out and I spend like a lot of money, then my bank account immediately decreases. Or for example, if my dad decides to send me, I don't know, like a few €1,000 or something like that, then it increases. I guess like anything, there must be like a tolerance level, I suppose.
Exactly, that's decided when you onboard the client, and then you need to know what the client is doing through the year, because his fortune could increase. But everything has to be explained.
Okay. And that must be interesting, like the kind of bad conversations where somebody tries to explain something but they're failing miserably. Like, does that happen?
It can happen, yes. It can happen.
And is it comical when it does happen? Like, is it something that you and the rest of the guys are then discussing, like in...
No, it's not comical, because the risks are so high.
Okay.
Say if they are using you to launder money, then everyone's in trouble. You need to get rid of that client. You need to report it.
Okay. And you've had to do that sometimes?
Yes, sometimes you have to. Yeah, you have to cancel accounts.
I don't want to put you in a tricky situation, or like.
Yeah. But it does happen. Yes,
okay.
Of course. There's many clients, and some of them don't want to do the right thing.
Have you ever received, like, I don't know, like a bullet in the post or anything like this? Like.
No, because they don't know me.
So nothing like a head of a horse or anything like.
No, I guess it's something like being the police within the bank.
Okay.
So that's what we do. I don't know how many policemen receive bullets in their mail.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting. And maybe to people that are interested in maybe going in this route of like banker, but not just like your classic banker, doing the kind of investigative, more this thing that you said, compliance, like how would somebody go into that how would somebody choose that avenue, that career path?
Well, first thing, they have to like it. They have to like, in my case, investigating. There's several different teams within compliance. Well, in my case, I studied laws, and then I wanted to do either auditing or investigating, and that's how I ended up in anti-money laundering.
Okay.
But within compliance, you probably have regulatory compliance, which is also keeping track of how the laws change and adapting them to the bank. You have sanctions as well, so you're checking if a country sanctioned, say Venezuela or Iran, is sanctioned, or Crimea recently, and you will be checking that no funds are sent to those locations.
Okay.
Other teams with many people are the onboarding teams, so they are the ones that get to know the clients. So filling the KYC and asking for all the documents. Well, the easy ones would be the passport, but as well, if it's a company, then you will need to ask for all the deeds.
Can you explain that? I didn't quite understand the thing about if there's an area, like a geographical area that's receiving sanctions, then that you want to make sure that money is not going into that area. Like, what does that mean, and how do you do that?
Say, for example, there's embargoes in Cuba or Iran, and for example, the United States does not want funds in US dollars used by Cubans. So you need to make sure that you do not have a Cuban client sending dollars or receiving dollars in your account. If someone is from Iran, you can have a client from Iran if he does not live in Iran. But then you have to be careful where those funds go, because he cannot be sending funds to Iran.
And would that be if you're like your company, is it Spanish, is it Swiss?
Spanish. Well, it's Swiss. It's a Swiss company, but the group, it belongs to a Spanish group.
And then presumably like the Spanish group or the Swiss company, they have like some kind of bilateral agreement with like all these different like partners of Switzerland, the partners of like Americans. Like when it comes to, as you said, not sending cash in these kind of fancy ways that maybe finance, I don't know, the North Korean government or Iran or something like that.
It's international rules.
International rules.
Called OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets.
That's interesting.
And so this is the United States just sanctioning people. For example, when they want to sanction the regime of Maduro in Venezuela, they don't want funds going to the government or to anyone who could be linked to the government, or linked to oil or precious metals in Venezuela. So that's a way of pressing them.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see this thing called Storyville?
No.
There's like a thing that it was brilliant about North Koreans and like how all this like system of like trying to get money illegally there to North Korea. It's amazing. No, so that's cool. So basically you studied law and then you decided to go into this kind of like banking path, and it was like, as you said, you could either go into like the more traditional auditing thing or maybe this more investigative thing. You chose the investigative thing, and no, that's cool. And so then did you do a master's after you studied law?
Yes, I did a master's in compliance here in Switzerland in Fribourg.
Nice.
Just to continue, I did it while I was working as well, so during my free time.
And and the money is amazing.
The money I get paid.
Yeah.
You mean? Our clients get more money than me. So if you want to choose a career path, maybe it's better to be a client of a private bank. But if you're like me and you have to go to uni and then find a job, then probably if you like investigating, it's a good career path. Yes.
And I guess there must be a good amount of psychology as well, no?
Psychology, well, there aren't many psychologists working with me, but it's a good idea, yeah.
Okay.
Psychologists would be more within human resources. Most of them have that background. Okay.
But I just mean when it comes to like investigating criminals and stuff, there's a whole branch of psychology. It's like I think it's called criminal psychology or forensic psychology.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was very interested in that.
It could be useful. There are many different backgrounds coming to compliance. I mean, the idea is that the basic thing is knowing the client and knowing what the client does. And then if you have a big of a business background as well, because you need to know about companies. I mean, but every background is good. If you have languages, because your customers could be from anywhere in the world. So if you speak languages and wherever the clients are from, that's positive.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And but the clients, do they see you as like an ally, or do they see you, when they start asking questions, do they see you as somebody who's like could essentially be fucking them at some point?
The clients basically don't know about us because they shouldn't. We are back office and we do a different work. They always deal with the front office, with the banker who's going to be asking the questions that we ask him.
No, okay.
So we tell the banker, ask your client why he's doing this, where this money comes from.
Yeah.
But normally there's a good explanation for what they do.
And maybe just lastly, you can tell, why don't you tell me about this? I was telling my dad after you told me last week about the presents, that you cannot receive presents, and like in Italy, like receiving presents, even maybe somebody, I don't know, buying you like a motorbike or a car or something like this, then then that would be considered fairly normal. But you were saying that it's just like, it's quite unjustified. You just cannot receive big presents. Is that correct?
You cannot receive presents. No.
You cannot receive presents.
And most companies have their own code of conduct that will not allow them, an employee, to receive money. Why would they receive? They already have a salary. So if they do, and basically the code of conducts have amounts that are like 100 francs or $50, something like that. Really, really low.
Yeah. Like for example, I work in as a researcher in academia, and in academia you have to, in this country here, you need to declare any extra cash that you've. A lot of academics and professors they publish books, or they have to go and do talks, or they have to do trainings, and so they can earn up to a maximum of an extra 60k a year through that.
Okay.
And but then that's obviously not presents. That's just like something different.
Like a side job.
It's a side job, exactly. So just like an extra form of income that like derives from your main job, because you would never be. It's like your status as a professor that allows you to make that cash, basically. But then yeah, basically, if even to thank you for coming along today, I can't send you a few K, a car, or anything like this. It's just like that would be.
Well, it depends if it's justified. If it's below 100 francs, then a present would be acceptable. But it's not normal as well. Probably you can pay for a dinner for a client as well, if you want to. But I mean, let's say if we're talking about ultra high net worth individuals, if we're talking about people with 5 million, 25 million assets. So paying a dinner for one of these clients, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, no, of course. So then, obviously, to report it to their if the person's got so many millions and you want them to think, oh, Michael, he's such a nice guy, wow, then you have to spend like quite a few thousand, and then you would come along and would say that's unacceptable.
Exactly.
Unacceptable.
That's unacceptable.
That's sad. It's like so we don't have the liberty to give each other presents, like big presents.
It cannot be lavish.
So, but is that just a Swiss thing, because it's a very Calvinist society? Like if we were in America, could we be giving each other big presents? Even worse.
This is international. It's just not accepted. I mean, if you go to any company's code of conduct, you will see that it's not accepted anymore.
Okay.
It used to be common with pharmaceutical companies that they would give presents to doctors that would probably invite their patients to buy a certain product, and then they would get for example, a cruise.
That stuff was disgusting. I'm so happy that's over. Yeah. And but you said that you investigate quite a few of these people, these crook doctors.
Well, this is ultra high net worth individuals, so normally no, they're not doctors. But before, I've seen, when I was working with retail banking, I have seen many of these things. Yes.
Okay.
Where you get to see, well, if someone is selling drugs on the street, that it's a small amount, and then you get to see, for example, say 1,000 francs coming into an account that are not justified.
Of course,
and in the end, after you investigate, or probably you send it to the police, you end up finding out that that money comes from drugs or from illegal activities.
And it would be the same if I take my family to the Maldives, and it's because it was all paid by a pharmaceutical company, then that obviously would be illegal, basically.
Yeah, it would be. It wouldn't be compliant with the code of conduct of the company. Companies don't do that anymore.
Okay, thank God. Yeah, stuff was disgusting. It was huge in Italy. There was a few scandals about that stuff, where they. I think in some countries, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but so in Italy, for example, there was a certain amount of like a threshold where apparently the company would say to you, you need to dish out like X amount of our drug, and then we'll send you and your family to the Maldives or something like that.
Yes.
And but that to me seems like maybe like really kind of obvious and a bit lazy. So I'm guessing, and this is my question for you, if it became a bit more sophisticated, where they would just send you maybe to the Maldives and be like, we don't want anything in exchange, but then they would know that like through psychology then that would impact your decision making.
Yeah, but this would be internal of the company, the pharma company, or whatever the doctor is working for. They would come and ask him why he received that money from the pharma company. That he would be liable to his company.
The doctor would be liable to who? To
the company he's working for, or.
But if he's just like a private, if it's just a doctor, like a physician on his own,
then probably would be the police who come if they.
I guess it would be you, no? Like if he's putting in. I guess
I'm just the bank.
Yeah, you're just the bank. So it would be if the pharmaceutical company was giving him extra bonuses, but not sending him on lavish holidays.
The pharma company should have their own compliance, and so they need to justify where the funds are sent.
Okay, I understand.
So if they get investigated,
But do you think it's always been like, because again, like growing up in Italy, I would hear about all these scandals over the years, and so I don't know, like, have these rules been introduced like later as I maybe got a little bit older, or have they always been there?
Yeah, it has all been growing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's more and more compliance is becoming stronger every year.
Is it since the crash 2008 or?
More and more since the crash, but before as well it was growing. There's more and more regulations.
I guess that's good. I mean, like, the word compliance to me doesn't sound a particularly sexy word, or like regulation and rules, but it sounds like it's something that society needs.
Yes, well, that's what it is.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. I think if anybody wants to understand, how to go from law and into like banking, especially here in Switzerland, where it's like, it's such a big thing here. It's like the hub of banking, like Geneva, Zurich. Then it's probably the right place to be actually for these kind of jobs. And were you selected because you were like the best when you were doing the bachelor, or were you just inspired to come here?
When I came here, I already had experience, which not that many people had experience before in compliance. So I've been doing this for over 8 years.
Nice.
And so experience is always a plus. And if you also have the languages to investigate clients from different countries, that always adds up. Yeah.
Nice. What languages do you have?
Spanish, English, and French.
So what's your French like?
It's good. It's understandable.
That's good. Nobody understands my French.
In practice.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
that
you.
was excellent.
Good.
Thank you.
Say no to drugs, kids.